represento las calles de mi tierra. Mi bandera, ay, mi bandera. Puerto Rico y todos los latinos. Sonamos donde quiera.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sports Jedi Network live here. Latino with Voices. I'm one half of the Latino with Voices BX Sports Jedi Kev. Chris is off here right now. He's out in his adventures. But I'm going to talk about NXT Gold Rush. I got a couple questions to ask about the NXT Gold Rush with Jacy Jayne shocking the NXT world, two-time NXT champion. I had to ask the question at the end of the night of Gold Rush from the theater of Madison Square Garden. Has Jacy Jayne made her case for 2025 breakout star in professional wrestling, in women's professional wrestling, let alone. We're going to talk about that. Let's get right into it, man. I hope everyone's doing well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, be part of the Sports Jedi Network, where we are the home of the watch-alongs as well. We do the watch-alongs for NXT, WWE, TNA. You've seen us up and down on our playback app as well as our YouTube channel. So we ask you to join us also on YouTube, or the old-fashioned way. You're not going to see any footage, but if you like to watch along and see what's going on in the ring, join us on our playback app. Our playback app, we are able to come along and watch along and get a different experience. And don't forget, always hit like, just share. And of course, you hit that link right there on our video, Hail the Ring podcast. You go in right in there, boom. You get to join our wonderful community on the playback app, man. So, yeah, I hope we have to see you there. Say hello. We don't bite. So let's go. Let's get right into it, man. Theater of Madison Square Garden. A lot of good stuff happened. No, you're not going to get any spoilers for week 2, although I didn't myself did not see or don't really care for the spoilers. I want to see it next week, although you can't help it in this day and age. When you open up social media, you get to see it's there. It just, regardless of the fact, hey, that's the issue when you tape things and you a week delay, it's going to get out there. You can't help it. We already spoke about on a previous video about what happened at the TNA taping at Full Sail. And I'm glad that got rectified. I'm glad that got fixed. Let's get right into this November 18th edition of NXT. I'm up my notes here. Besides Jacy Jayne winning the title, we had the mixed tag team champions, the AAA mixed tag team champion Chelsea, Ethan Page taking on Joe Hendry and Thea Hail. This match to open up the festivities on the NXT Gold Rush. Very good match. The crowd. I'd like to say one thing. The theater of Madison Square Garden looked so vibrant, so electric. I know Chris is a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and he was very excited seeing the terrible towels wave. It was a little, it's Gold Rush. It gave that little bit of that homage and that wonderful throwback, or you could say the terrible towels for the NXT brand. All in all, that was a good look. It looked well on TV. The place looked packed. It looked submerged. The Theater Madison Square Garden, I don't know what it is when it comes to professional wrestling. It just gives that intimate, beautiful vibe. It just shows what at least the NXT, this brand looks really cool. I know the night before for Monday Night Raw, they had almost 17,000 folks there for Madison Square Garden because it's the main roster. Main roster, big stuff there. NXT Steve, there you go, Stu, says NXT was fun. I think when they do those live shows, and thank you for the comment, they are so fun and electric. Look, I've been blessed, honored living here in Orlando, Florida, to go to the Performance Center. Went for that 2.0 era, went a lot of 2.0 era, going here and there to NXT occasionally now. Now that we're running more of the channel, do more watch alongs. Don't go too much to the Performance Center like I do, like what I will, used to go before. And it's a different atmosphere. I don't think there's nothing like the Performance Center. Maybe I'm biased because I live in Orlando, Florida. Those folks, they know how to cheer. Some to the detriment of hijacking at times, but that's not what we're here for. We're here about showing the electricity. And I thought last night at the Theater of Madison Square Garden brought the energy, especially for that opening contest. The Thea Hail, very underrated for the young lady. am a little worried with the stop and start in her career. I don't know if she had little nagging injuries here and there, but Thea Hail, when she, whether it's Chase U, being that overzealous character, she hits the bill. Now with Joe Hendry, who is so super popular and over, pairing them together for this mixed tag team title. I don't know if it's a one-off thing here for the Theater of Madison Square Garden. It kind of felt like that, but it hit for that moment, for at least for that time, at the moment where Thea Hail, where she does the turn with the smile, goes with Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry continues to get over, continue to show that TNA, he still got himself over in TNA and got that company with a lot of eyeballs, and he is mainstream. When you have NFL players all across turning around and doing the Joe Hendry pose, like the New Orleans Saints players and all across, he is super over. Don't let it fool you. Sometimes I get a little frustrated where TNA should have really, really capitalized on the kids' hunger and popularity, especially. And this is not about a bash on TNA neither. It's not about that. But as we've seen, they just don't know when to pull the trigger. We spoke about that. I don't want to get into that because we spoke about that. Their timing is a little bit, a dollar short and a day late, whatever the saying is. I know I butchered it, but let's go right into this. I really like the coffin drop by Thea Hail, dropping back on the outside, got both Chelsea and Ethan Page. All in all, your heels, you get the distraction. I love the way where they broke the pin, where Joe Hendry fell on Thea Hail, allowed Chelsea to hit the unpretty of her. She gets the victory. This match, it opened up, and it set the tone for Gold Rush, where I'm not going to be honest, it wasn't the greatest television show special. I think the Theater of Madison Square Garden made the vibe, made the show look fun, but the in-ring or what was going on, at least for us watching along, it didn't really feel us at that night. Maybe because I was too busy eating birthday cake. I don't know, but I thought this match was great. We go to the locker room. I did like the Lola Vice looking over, and she wants to chase that title with Mr. Iguana. This is the one little bit of disconnect, at least for night number one. I don't want to see the spoilers of night number two. I don't want to. I want to stay away from it. I would have liked to see AAA wrestlers at Madison Square Garden. You just purchased this company. You just merged with TNA, with AAA. You're working collaboration with TNA as well. You put it on the marquee. TNA, Evolve, WWE, NXT. All you're telling us that you're doing a Gold Rush with all these different collaboration with these performers, with these companies. I would have liked to seen some AAA wrestlers there. And again, no disrespect. Mr. Iguana is super over to the moon, as well as Dr. Wagner. But give us there's more than those two in AAA wrestling. What if this is an opportunity they would have gotten us or showcase some other different wrestlers? I know it's a 2-hour show and you can't showcase everyone. I totally agree. I totally get it. Maybe I know Joe Hendry Thea Hail, but at least at the end of the match, have the AAA, either Mr. Iguana come out with Lola Vice, not the backstage, but just show a representation of the AAA wrestlers, or even a different mixed tag team of sorts. That's the only little bit of disconnection I do have a little bit. There is no AAA talent on this card wrestling as of right now. There's no one from AAA that's been there before the merger on this Gold Rush card. So it's a little bit disingenuous in my opinion. I would have liked to see that, but the title and the banner is there for the WWE. I guess that's good enough, but this is the theater match. Regardless if it's the theater, but it's still MSG, still Madison Square Garden. I would have liked some type of representation there. If in this case, I'm going to say this. I hope that they do a Worlds Collide AAA in New York City at Madison Square Garden. I think they could do better than the theater at Madison Square Garden if they do a Worlds Collide in the future in 2026, because I think the wrestling community will go and watch that show in New York City. So I hope they kind of amend this, or they do good for AAA with a Worlds Collide in the future in 2026. We'll see where that goes. That's just my opinion, my thoughts on it. We'll go into the next one. We have Ava makes an announcement. Ava, of course, talking about the Iron Survivor coming up. I had the privilege of being the very first one live in the Performance Center. That was just a great Iron Survivor. Grayson Waller won that one. That was a good one. It was the famous Shuey. That was a very good one. I love the concept of Iron Survivor. John Cena is going to announce the men and women, the participant in the Iron Survivor next week. Good to see John Cena wants to give back to NXT. I wanted to save this when I talk Chris do our weekly wrestling about the Monday Night Raw, and I know we weren't when this show Gold Rush aired or finished last night. We both weren't so enthusiastic, so that's why I didn't ask him to come on the review, because he's also doing things, and I wanted to review it myself because I watched it again and I wanted to give a different perspective. I saw it through different lines. And I wanted to review it myself, give you my opinions, and I wanted to talk about Jacy Jayne, be honest with you with that. So we're going to give our opinion on Monday Night Raw and John Cena, breaking down the tournament and picking, and because there wasn't just one NXT representation in that whole tournament. Where if you heard his comments and you heard when he made that announcement about who should be his last match or his last opponent in that tournament, he wanted younger wrestlers to show the hunger that he had when he came out to challenge Kurt Angle. And this tournament, regardless, and I'm just gonna give you a little bit because I want to leave this to talk with Chris. It kind of feels like a little bit of a contradiction, but we'll leave that for our weekly wrestling show with me and Chris when we sit down and we have our roundtable discussion. So a little bit of a tease for this upcoming week, where for me and Chris are going to get in some deep debate about that, about the tournament, about John Cena's finals opponents and how they're going about it. But for now, he is going to select the members, the men and women for the Iron Survivor in San Antonio, December 6th. Remember, TNA will be El Paso in that time for a final as well as Antonio. Hope they do good collaboration here to finish the year strong. For both TNA Impact Zone as well as the Deadline show. Let's hope because let's face it, these wrestling shows are fun when we get the mixed match of talent. You don't have to have war games, you don't have to have Survivor Series type of matches, but I love the cross promotion when they do that. I feel like the television shows get exciting on CW and the Impact Zone when you have that cross promotion. That's just me seeing it from my view, from my point of lens. Maybe a lot of TNA traditionists doesn't like the NXT involvement or vice versa. I am one of the either minorities that do. So I hope they do some more stuff in the future with both companies more going forward. So we move on here. Of course, Ava with the online. Then we have one of the rare times that it felt like they were doing if you have the international feed or for Netflix, or you have the higher tier of Netflix, when they go on commercial break, they do an in-arena promo, and they kind of brought that along yesterday for Tavion Heights. He was cutting a promo, there was a interference or a brawl with Josh Briggs. They're trying to show it. They're trying to get to a blow-off match, maybe a gimmick, a last man stand. Well, they just had a last man standing with Trick Williams and Ricky Saints. I don't think they'll be redundant and do that. Maybe a false count anywhere match, or some type of a gimmick match between Tavion Heights and Josh Briggs, because these two guys, they are just going at it. They're just totally want each other's throat. That you see later throughout the show, later down the thread, they're fighting in the back as well. So obviously we're going to get a big time, massive payoff between these two. I don't know if they'll do it on NXT week 2 of Gold Rush, because again, I want to try to stay away from as many spoilers as possible. So I want to leave that alone. Or is that something they might do when they return to the Performance Center on December 2nd, or do they leave it for Deadline? Do they leave it for the go-home show before Deadline? Whatever the case is, we'll find out in a couple of days when Ava makes an announcement going forward. They're slowly but building this backstage tension between Aria and Soruka. And Chris rated in the night when it comes to Chris and me. I've been since January, February, early part of 2025, just predicting when Zarya is going to turn heel and is going to backstab Soruka. And now we're in the middle of November. Still hasn't happened. They keep throwing breadcrumbs. They keep throwing seeds. They became there. But my goodness, talk about the slow burn. This is called the most slowest burn possible, where I don't know if this is going to ever happen. Because Zarya, look, let's face it, it's been one full calendar year since Zarya arrived to NXT. I feel she's in quicksand. She checks all the boxes. I think Zarya, her presentation is a heel. Her vignettes, her opening when she comes out by herself without Soruka, she looks like a bad woman. I mean, not terrible. I mean, like, I don't want to mess with this woman. I don't want to know. You know what? She goes this way, I'm going the other way. Zarya looks like a monster heel. Her makeup, her look, her finisher. She has a damn F5. But now she's just this happy-go-lucky who's in love, who shows like a kind of a female crush, single white female crush on Soruka. And I don't know if that's what that's what creative is trying to get with us. They got it, but it's not resonating because Zarya hasn't been booked strong enough. Right now, we should be getting matchups for Deadline or Payoff, where it's Zarya versus Jordynne Grace. Both ladies are 1 year in the company. Since that tease and when they went to the ECW arena, when they inadvertently cost Jordynne Grace when she was part of TNA, it's almost a year. They have not. They teased it. They showed this, and then both ladies have been under the same company umbrella and TNA and NXT, and we haven't got that. I think that's a matchup that we would love to see: Zarya versus Jordynne Grace, where we have a heel Zarya and the babyface Jordynne Grace. Those two ladies, you're like, oh my goodness, you know, that's a I don't know what's going on where I don't know if they don't, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I don't know if they see the beauty with that matchup with these two ladies. You know, I understand that there's a lot of other women and they have to bring along and showcase, but I feel Zarya, the full year in WWE, especially compare what Julia, Stephanie Becker, they're just leapfrogging, and Stephanie's the women's champion on Monday Night Raw, and also Julia already had a United States title run, whereas Zarya, when they all came in with like a big three. Talk about a big three that was the big three of NXT, and it feels like Zarya's stuck in quicksand in neutral. It's like they don't know what direction to go with her. We'll pair her with one of the most popular babyface in all of NXT, and Soruka, and we'll see what we can figure out with her. And that to me gets me frustrated because I know there's more to Zarya. If you see her Australian highlight reels from the YouTube channels, she looks like a badass. When you see her do that F5 and the way she presented her with the power, she looks massive. When she was in the ring with Rhea Ripley, she felt like she belonged there. I'm not saying she's in Rhea Ripley's level, but just, yeah, she looks like she could belong there in a few years, in a year. You know, yeah, she didn't look over puny or starstruck. She, you know what, if the right booking, the right coaching, she could be in that ring, stand tall. She's not a short lady. She's built. I've given her nothing but flowers for her, and that's why it frustrates me. We get the match with Soruka Blake Monroe, where I on my channel was saying this whole Soruka knee angle injury was lame. I don't know yet because I don't have a payoff. That a knee injury played off to tonight's matchup with Blake Monroe, where Blake Monroe gets the victory with the single leg crack because Zarya, her friend, who's worried and is really wants the best for Soruka, throws in the towel. I said it last night on the watch along. Madison Square Garden, if you're an old head like myself watching wrestling from here, it was Arnold Skolin throwing the white towel in for Bob Backlund. I said it on my watch along, admitted it happened. When I saw her grab the towel, I said, oh, they're going to go to that spot that happened over 45 or close to 50 years where Arnold Skolin throws the towel in and calls Bob Backlund. I'm like, oh my God. And they did it. That was a great a flashback. I wish Vic Joseph and Booker T would have also said that as well to the audience at home, because they would have been like, oh wow, they could have looked it up, all that good stuff. But that's just a minor criticism there, because those are one of the two best commentators in professional wrestling right now. It'd be, I think Booker T does a great job alongside with Vic Joseph. They just so total different, opposite. Vic is that professional wrestler, sportcaster that will break things down, and Booker T brings the commentary, the color, the jokes, the outrageous takes, the viral moments. It goes perfect. It's like putting oil and vinegar on a sandwich that just dresses it up. I think they do a great job. I enjoy them. And same thing with Tom Hannafin and Matthew Ridwell on TNA. They do a good job there. They've grown on me. They're really good commentators. Shout out to all the different commentators on the professional wrestling. That are doing a good job there. I enjoy them there, and I want to see where it goes now, where they'll forfeit. Where is Soruka's head now? To me, this is going to be so NXT WWE when we're thinking of Zarya turning the heel. I think Soruka is going to turn the heel, and then it makes you wonder why. So should be the baby face. She gets the reaction. She's got the smile. She's the surfer girl. She's maybe they feel that there's not a much of a ceiling, or her gimmick might get a little tiresome, which at this point I tend to disagree. But maybe they see something down the line in the future. They want to see if there's adaptivity to Soruka's character, especially if they're thinking of bringing her up to the main roster, get her main roster ready. If let's say she just knows that one persona, she doesn't want to get typecast as just only a surfer young lady. Maybe they want to see if she has some heel, some edge, wittiness behind her. And the best place to do it is in NXT, because it is technically a developmental, and they want to see if Soruka could be the heel. That's all I'm thinking. I'm trying to make sense of it. I personally, again, the babyface Zarya doesn't work. I don't want to go in circles with you guys or be redundant with my take, but I would love to see Zarya go full heel and just wreck NXT Tuesdays and just go out there and just start breaking down women. I mean, in a total badass way, where she's just wrecking stuff. I mean, just think of the matchups, hard-hitting matchups she could have, with her as a uber heel, and with Jada Parker, with Izzy Dane, my goodness, with Jordan Grace eventually. Just think of all those different ladies there going forward. Carmen Petrovich. Maybe that's one of her first few that she in the back, and they could get, because Carmen is she's a karate artist. Lola Vice. You got that mix that you could blur the line where they're karate and their influence there, and then Zarya, who just wants to be this badass. You could align her with Blake Monroe, she stabs her, and she stabs Soruka and aligns herself with Blake Monroe, and they could kind of watch each other's back, and they could go there. You could have a Blake Monroe babyface run later down the road if you like. There's so many different things. I don't know where creative NXT will go with that, guys, but that's just my opinion, my thoughts on it. Again, let's have a little fun, especially with the women. When you have so much women on that roster, you could do, one of her feuds. If you want to show as a heel, want to have her go squash Akita Lyons. I mean, Akita next to Zarya, they both. I'm like, wow, that's a monster matchup. You see them both, and Zarya just boom. Would love to see her put an F5 on Akita to get her up and just F5 her. Like, that'd be like, whoa, that's impressive, because Akita's loved in the Performance Center. You want to get some heat on Zarya if she goes heel, boom. That's one of those you offer the races. But I don't know if they'll pull it. Maybe we're just going around in circles, having a conversation with there. We get a backstage locker room interview. Henley, Reed, Jacy, they all both talking themselves how they're envisioning Team Drake all fatal influence in gold, because of course Lenny Reed has, and of course the Speed Championship following week for Fallon Henley, and Jacy Jayne tonight has an opportunity to get NXT Women's Gold. Interesting to see there. This one here segment, I had to watch it again and hear and listen. I want to also give kudos though, because I did listen a little bit to on my way home from work to a little bit of the Busted Open where Bully put a real good. They played the interview. Actually, Tommy Dreamer. I heard the interview, and I heard when he stop, and I heard what Obafemi was saying. And when I do live watch along, we're having a conversation with our chat. The chat is very interactive, so we're back and forth with the chat. I couldn't hear exactly the cadence and the zingers or the points that the two participants, Ricky Saints, and in this case, Obafemi, was in the ring. Obafemi knocked that promo out of the park. I thought Obafemi said, "Your daddy's home." You know, he went back to the motherland to regroup, recarcass. I loved it. He goes, the ruler, you know, Oba called Ricky the Unchained and underneath the ruler. I mean, that was so great. He went home to rebuild, return as a version Ricky can't beat. So the rematch is probably going to set for Deadline. This is where I had a little bit of an eyebrow raise. Trick was in New York City. I got a little bit frustrated because I thought, so maybe since Monday Night Raw, we had Dolph Ziggler, who, believe me, he did a phenomenal job selling the hell out for Solo Sikoa, who really needed that. You know, if anything, and I'll break that down with Chris later on later in the week in our weekly wrestling, who really needed Dolph Ziggler was Solo Sikoa. And I'll get into that. You have to tune in when I go on Saturday with Chris. We'll talk about it, why, and so forth. But I was a little frustrated. Why no Trick Williams? Listen, they did a house show match for John Cena teaming up with Sheamus, Rey Mysterio. Great. Maybe John wasn't up for a one-on-one at Madison Square Garden, so you safe it off 6-man where he's not going to get blown up, winded, whatever the case is. I'm not complaining about it, but I am disappointed that Trick Williams is not in this tournament, in the John Cena final tournament. There was no, to be honest with you, there's no reason for Jay or LA Knight really to be in this tournament. I'm gonna be honest. I love LA Knight. You know, everybody wants him to be world champion, and it's not piling on the heat on neither one or two. Because LA Knight, and it's not, it's gonna sound ageism. He's over 40. Jey Uso's 40. I could even make an argument for Penta for being in the tournament. Penta's gonna put on a banger of match. People are thinking it's gonna be Penta and Gunther in the finals for John Cena's final match. And they're going to put on a classic banger of a match. And I agree with you. But the purpose of John Cena's final opponent tournament, when he mentioned himself, is to give back to the future of professional wrestling. I know they're going to showcase NXT across the board, but you have guys where you have Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams. You know, I like the fact, I think it would have been better if Trick Williams would have been in this tournament. You bring them up. Let's face it. Now with the announcement that SmackDown is going 3 hours in January, they're going to need a charismatic wrestler, a charismatic person on the microphone who can entertain the crowd, get people energized, excited with the whoop that trick. Especially, I don't think Javon Evans is ready to go to the main roster. A lot of people would love to see Javon Evans in the main roster come on. But if Javon Evans goes to the main roster as of now, he's not going to interact with Leon Slater. And right now, they're very energetic. They're very fun to see Leon and Javon work together for both brands, NXT and TNA. You know what? Those two shows, they need eyeballs. Let's face it. NXT's ratings are kind of plateau at around the 600,000, 625,000. You bring over Javon, Leon, they could elevate here, maybe 550,000 extra here. At TNA could use the eyeballs if Javon works, you know, with Leon in TNA. Those ratings can help people want to watch at least the PLEs, the pay-per-views for TNA. Vice versa, if he goes to the main roster, forget it. You're not seeing the main roster working with TNA wrestling so far here in 2025. Maybe that changes in 2026, where, you know, they want to now take it to another level of their collaboration. Only the insights know. I'll probably ask around questions to see if I get some answers on that. Through TNA upper management, I'll ask those questions when I get to see and have that conversation with them. But my point, they needed more young representation. I know a lot of people want to see Obafemi in the tournament. Rightfully so. Obafemi would have been a nice one to put in that tournament as well. And I know you don't want to see them lose on this, but they're still trying. They're hungry, where they're trying to get to a plateau or they're trying to get to an end game, is being in the same ring before John Cena hangs it up. And that's the story that's in that tournament. Again, no disrespect to Jey Uso. He's a former world heavyweight champion. I know you could play a story that John Cena eliminated him at the Royal Rumble, and Jey wants that, show him it wasn't a fluke. And that's that. You could go in that angle for that storyline to John Cena. I'm going to pin you. It wasn't a fluke. I don't need to push you off. I'm going to end you by pinning you, super kicking you. Maybe that's the story they tell there. LA Knight already said his reason for, he's, that Intercontinental title. He wants that. He doesn't care about retiring or not. They all mention their reason, at least for the ones that are moving on. Solo Sikoa has had brief history with John Cena. He beat John Cena. So I would have Carmelo is the one thing. He's from Boston. He's 31 years old. He's still young. Be honest with you, Gunther's probably going to go to the final and take John Cena, but I love who could really use that massive push and that massive rub is Carmelo Hayes. Seriously, I am rooting my ass off for Carmelo Hayes to be that one in Washington. Look, Washington is sold out already. They're going to go see, and it's about John Cena. But man, if Melo could go there and go over without going over, or John Cena raises the hand and gives that point, Carmelo, you got to talk about 2026 for Carmelo Hayes. You're pushing one of your homegrown. Yes, I know Carmelo did the indies, and I know he worked Battle Pro New York, and I know he came from there. He was in New York City doing the independent scene, but he really got his teeth cut in NXT, where the North American title run he had, and the NXT World Champion run, and of course, #1 draft pick. There's a lot of investment and time and work that they put in Carmelo Hayes. Will be a great opportunity, as well as Gunther as well in the NXT UK. But I think Gunther has his caveat already, getting rid of Goldberg, and you have Brock Lesnar in his grasp for Brock and Gunther for WrestleMania. Gunther doesn't need the extra feather in his cap with John Cena. That's just me. I know people like to see it. If they give me John Cena and Gunther, I'm not going to get upset. I'm going to enjoy it. Yes, but I would love them to think a little bit outside the box and help elevate other wrestlers that could use it, especially your NXT, who was part of the NXT 2.0 along with Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes. And that's why I'm a little disappointed with Trick Williams. Trick Williams comes out, interrupts, back and forth. Miles Bourne, now he's stepping up here. NXT is suffering with the male side of the heavyweight title picture for contenders. They're missing the #1 contenders. They're missing guys because right there, those four right there, be honest with you, are the nucleus of the men's division. And Miles is just stepping up by just him being forceful onto that scene. It's really Trick, Ricky, and Oba, and you can't run that back so many times before people start checking out on the men's division. I believe CW Network's president mentioned that the women's division is much more greater than the men's division when it comes to NXT. I mean, take that for the grain of salt. That's just his opinion, from an executive, and I think that's going to raise eyebrows for hopefully NXT Creative. We want NXT Creative to get a little bit thinking outside the box. That's why I propose I would love the end game for Mike Santana to win the NXT men's title. You don't tell me you're going to get a bump of ratings and people going crazy when Mike Santana comes to that Performance Center and all the people, all the Latinos that live in Orlando, and that Performance Center that they tend to go a little overzealous with their singing, their chanting and hype, with a Mike Santana coming through the crowd with that title. It's going to look great on TV, and people are like, who's this Mike Santana? It'll benefit both companies, and then while you build a male up and comer to help get going, and Santana can help get another male that needs that elevation. If they're thinking it's Trevion Heights, they already Santana's debut in NXT was with Trevion on NXT television. Maybe Trevion is a ways away, and not too far, but ways away. If he could start and get into that. That's just me. Maybe that's just the Latino in me wanting to see two of my guys there and up and center in NXT television, especially if rumors are true. Mike Steele's coming up. WWE might want something to do with him in being the Mike Santana business, which he was close to signing, according to the dirt sheets, to NXT, but he went to do the TNA. We'll see what happens with that. But I would love to see Mike hold the NXT men's title and see what that looks like via Performance Center. And of course, when they go on the road a little bit here and there, to hear with our ears, the crowd seeing him and giving him a proper world title run. Build him with the WWE machine behind Mike Santana, and we'll see what TNA might have missed out, or which I still think TNA might put the title back on Santana, but I would like to see what the machine will do behind Mike Santana as your NXT World Champion. We can see what it does to Ricky Saints. I think Ricky Saints feels really important, really good. It looks great for him holding that title, but I think that's going to come to an end. My challenge, Trick Williams, coming up next week at Gold Rush. Hopefully one of them gets put into the Iron Survivor, declaring, absolutely, Trick declaring himself an Iron Survivor. We'll see the winner at New Year's Evil. He wants to win, because remember, the winner of the Iron Survivor gets a match at New Year's Evil, beginning the first Tuesday of the year. For that, we'll see how that goes there. I know Ava reprimanded him backstage. Let's see if Miles Bourne goes here. The third Darkstate. Darkstate, your team champions taking on Javon and Leon Slater. Oh, this was going to be a banger. A supercharged opener. You had super kick, dives from Evans. Slater near fall finishes. Darkstate slowed it down, isolating both Evans with the rear chin lock, foot stomps, DDT. All in all, great match there. I love the mishap from Darkstate with the double palm into a slick cutoff when Lennox yanks Leon Slater off and Evans hits him with a frog splash, and boom, they dump Javon Evans, and Darkstate hits that Legion of Doomsday device. I said this when it comes to Darkstate. When it comes to Sugar Man, I'm not invested in him. And the other gentleman, Cutler James, a dud. No charisma. BJ, his former college partner and collegiate amateur wrestling, said this guy, and he said it on LFG, on live television, this guy has no charisma. I see him. I want to turn. I'm like, please get him off my television. And Sugar Man, he doesn't fit. The two superstars in that I could see going forward in Darkstate are the two that are currently wrestling, Dion Lennox and Osiris Griffin. Those two guys, especially Osiris Griffin, his look, how big and strong he looks. For two guys that big and they're doing the Doomsday device, bravo. They do it justice. They're not butchering it or trying to add something here in 2025. Simple, late. The other one, clothesline off the top ropes. Love it. Bravo. For them as a finisher, it works. I'm going to be honest with you. Last night, seeing that when they started doing that Doomsday device I'm not full state, but they kind of said, okay, I could tolerate, or I want to see more of those two. The other two gentlemen, again, you guys probably are good performers, probably great guys, dudes. But as a wrestling audience watching, I couldn't care less for neither one. Cutler James just stands there. What are you? You're the new manager? What is your story? You're not doing much. Are you injured? I go get tinfoil and just watch it. Sugars goes a little over the top, but I understand he's a protagonist. I could understand a little bit his game or his influence in the group. We'll see where it goes. Who will be the next challenger? Watch out for OTM. OTM, they're slowly but surely building them. That collision course between Darkstate and OTM is going to happen. Those guys are real. Those guys are hard hitters. Bronco and Lucius, they are some heavy hitters. Look for that possibly for Vengeance, or possibly down for Stand and Deliver, for those two tag teams to go at it. I hope they slowly burn it. They don't rush them immediately, but they're teasing, because those guys are some badass mother truckers, like they like to say. And so as Darkstate is starting to now climb, they have beat the Hardys. They took on these two young phenoms, and they totally had a good match. To me, if honest with you, I thought this was the match of the night. I'm giving Darkstate that thumbs up, because I thought this was the match of the night. You're with Leon and Javon, who just 24 hours was in the same arena taking on Gunther, and he put on a hell of a banger. I got to give him credit. I got to give him props for Leon. Of course, saw him over the weekend here in Full Sail. I know he's going through a lot of stuff in his personal life, and he's going to have a match on the 22nd for AAA Mexico. So the kid is working. Slater's working. The kid is hungry. You could tell he is right now married to the pro wrestling scene, and I think if you love it, you can't nothing but behind a kid like Leon Slater. And Javon Evans, you could see the future is just ascending for the kid. Phenomenal job there, of course. You got a backstage with Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray talking about their upcoming jokes with Charlie Dempsey. Yeah, this is the one time they finally talked about the dust up between NXT and TNA that I saw on Turning Point. It was just briefly mentioned. It was just them two talking about it. Can't believe I saw Charles doing what he did. That's it. This is where I was disappointed here. Any Scaveva or at least Santino and addressing it, or at least give us a cliffhanger where Santino wants a word with Ava, and things are not going well. Like, give it that on camera. They didn't even bother even talking about it. They're just them two, and that's it. I'm like, okay, they're not, that is a big deal with NXT and Robert Stone did to costing a world heavyweight champion in Mike Santana. So maybe they'll play this when they come back from the holidays. Maybe that's it. I don't know. There's a lot of taping going on. Nothing live for until that December 2nd. So I don't know if that's something purposely done by NXT when it comes to that. Look, next week, maybe they did it for next week's taping. I don't know. It's a little bit of a disconnect in my opinion here. We'll move on here. Of course, they announced for next week is Trick Williams, Miles Bourne. We knew that. We knew about John Cena calling out all the names. We also know about the triple threat with Kalani Jordan Grace, Ying Yi Lee for the knockouts, Fallon Henley for the speed champion, Evolve Women's Champion, Kendall Gray versus Laney Reed. Jackson Drake taking on Sean Legacy. They gave him a nice vignette of Legacy. Maybe they're teasing something there where we have an opportunity for a title change there. We don't know. And we get another second backstage with Sol Ruka fuming that Zarya tossed the towel. Zarya refused to watch Blake Monroe wreck Sol's knee for a year or two. It's going to cost a year or two of her career. Sol said her pride made her a double champ. And Zarya said she can't be champ if she's injured. And so that's why she had to throw the towel. And Sol walked away. This is where they're teasing where Sol Ruka might be the one turning heel, because she said she don't want her to let her pride get in the way. But she said her pride is what made her double champion. Something that kind of like something that Zarya doesn't have. Being too buddy-buddy, too lovey-dovey, and not being that true badass that she is in the ring and worrying about too much for Sol Ruka in a business where you don't work. I think that's what's going to break Zarya's heart. Tony, what's going on, Tony? I think that's what it's going to break Zarya's heart when Sol turns on her, because you can't trust anyone. She's going to learn that lesson. What Sean Cole, Steve Austin used to say, don't trust anyone. And I think that's what's going to happen to Zarya. I think that's what's going to turn her heel going forward. All right, main event. The main event now, it's Tatum Paxley, your NXT Women's Champion with the Culling, taking on Jacy Jayne, Fatal Influence. This was a sharp opening. You got some roll-ups, arm drags, head scissors from Jacy Jayne. Tatum Paxley spinning kicks, running cross bodies on the apron, moonsaults to the floor. Jacy Jayne crashes Paxley with a flying cannonball off the apron with the senton, hip attack, suplex, squeeze, body scissors. When you get the shenanigans with the ref gets away, with the title gets introduced, Daisy, and you're going to see, is Jacy Jayne going to get caught hitting the title on Paxley and cause a disqualification? That's what I thought. But Paxley snags it and a collar roll for 2. I thought that was going to be the end of a lot of the near falls, because I was looking at the time. I'm like, man, the time is going to run short here on this match. They cut it close, especially when they went to the outside. And out of this part that caught me by surprise, when they went to the outside, when I knew that the Culling was going to turn on Tatum Paxley, but I didn't know it was going to happen in Gold Rush. I thought Deadline was going to be the opportunity for that matchup to turn where she was going to lose that title. I did not know it was going to happen last night. Caught me by surprise. Listen, Tatum, great moment. Got happy for her, for Halloween Havoc, for her to be your NXT Women's Champion. Watching her level up, wrestled trying to find herself with different opponents or different tag team combinations with her. I remember seeing her, with Amari Miller at times teaming up and then finally put her with Ivy Nile with the mind, coming up because she was a power lifter playing into that persona, seeing her with the hood. Then when she went to that dark makeup and that with the current persona that gave birth right now with her, seeing Shakti and seeing her with Gigi Dolan. I used to call them the Powerpuff Girls, the Chemical X, whatever you want to call them, that didn't really get the legs in NXT. And then finally with the culling and her winning the title, it was a really great moment. And I think they gave her that opportunity. They saw where she's a title. Could she get that women's title back? Absolutely. But I thought the right person won here tonight. Personally, because especially that you want to introduce a new member to Fatal Influence, you need them to be strong. We just added Laney Reed and we're all together again. You got to make a Fatal Influence meaningful. And for Jacy Jayne, who went out there and just hit her finish and shocked the world again, and she does it again in New York City for the second time in a calendar year, and capturing her third women's championship, 2 NXT titles and a Knockouts title. To me, I have to say Jacy Jayne is your breakout female wrestler of the year all across the board in all of professional wrestling. For Jacy Jayne to be seen as a third wheel part of Toxic Attraction, everyone, Mandy Rose, your main star. Gigi, she's the one. Oh my goodness, she's more. Everyone, all the males, at least in the Performance Center, we used to see Gigi with lustful eyes, especially from her behind. All Gigi was popular because she was lustful, and Jacy was just Jacy. I recall going to NXT 2.0 and watching, and I turned to my wife and I told her, when I saw Jacy Jayne in person first time, she has the mannerisms of a heel. She is heel persona. She has mannerisms that when the ring gets together, she's going to be really good. And this was back in 2022 when it was going to 22. And I've always said that about Jacy Jayne. I had the honor and privilege to be at Slammiversary in the UBS arenas to see her win the Knockouts title. To me, that was I marked out. I was so happy. Yes, Marsha's a great wrestler. Marsha's a hell of a wrestler, but I was surprised for Jacy winning. I know I did not see her beating Stephanie Vicaire. I thought Stephanie this is just a nice match for Stephanie to get a victory and solidify her NXT title run. No, Jacy surprised me. I was like, and I even questioned it. I said, did Jacy by accident hit Vicaire where she might have lost focus of the 3 count, and that was a mistake? No, it was not a mistake. That was part of the plan, and especially when they solidified for me when she went to UBS, Marsha Slamovich backyard, and won that Knockouts title. And now tonight at Madison Square Garden, where she's from New Jersey, by the way, but in the archives of Madison Square Garden, when it comes to the women, Jacy Jayne becomes a 2-time women's champion, winning and rocking the world. Where the night prior to the night before, Maxine Dupree became your first ever women's intercontinental champion at Madison Square Garden. So there's a lot of history being made at New York City in the Madison Square Garden, those venues. 2-time and third for Jacy Jayne, solidifying herself as one of the best women's wrestler. Bravo for Jacy Jayne. Great job for Jacy. I know people wanted to see her get elevated to the main roster. And you could have a great case for making Jacy Jayne part of SmackDown. I tend to agree, but I don't want her to get fed to Jade Cargill just yet. I know she could do things in that United States title picture for Jacy, but if you're bringing Jacy Jayne, you got to kind of bring along Fatal Influence. And the one person that's not holding them back, I don't find her holding them back. I don't think she's just polished to be on that main roster just yet, is Laney Reed. I think Laney Reed needs more reps. Not my cup of coffee, but I think with more in-ring ability, more wrestling, where she could, I think she'll be ready for the main roster by the spring. by the spring. That's a compliment for Laney Reed. I just think that I think that's where we're going to see Fatal be brought up after Stand and Deliver. I think Jacy, at least Jacy and Fallon. Fallon's been there for a while. I think Fallon could work. Here's the one thing that worries me. I don't want them to be brought up to be put in catering, and you push Jacy Jayne at times, but then I don't want them to happen like Shayna Baszler, Zoe Starks, and Sonya Deville. I don't need that for them. That's my worry. I don't want them to get caught in catering, and when they came out there, when you see them occasionally, they're always losing, and you're like, oh man, and here they go, and then a couple months later you don't see them, and then they have to announce that they're no longer part of the company. I don't want to see that for Jacy Jayne, especially if you invested so much in Jacy in 2025, and Jacy put in so much of hard work with NXT for the past 4 to 5 years in the company. She has a lot of decorative accolades that she accomplished in NXT. And I wouldn't want the main roster to not know what to do with her. That's all my fear for Jacy. But it's not her. I think it's the beauty in the eye of the beholder when it comes to creative, to see what Shawn Michaels, Bloom, Terry Miller, all the coaches see in Jacy Jayne. I don't know if it's going to translate into the main roster with the writers and the time, especially what they showed us in the main roster, that they're veteran heavy when it comes to the main event time, and they got to give them 2 to 3 segments. Cody, Punk, Brock, Roman, everyone else takes the Uber back seat. That's my worry when it comes to that. So look, SmackDown is going up for 3 hours. A lot of people don't like it, rightfully so. You should be concerned, a little bit worried for the 3 hours of SmackDown going forward, because they showed us last year. It really didn't hit. It didn't really captivate. It was a long chore of 3 hours on a Friday night, where the segments, we don't need 3 segments of Cody Rhodes coming out of the 25, 30-minute promo, then a backstage for 15, and then 10, and then the main event. And then you still don't get wrestlers to get showcased or put up. That's, or the world champion. You got to make everything, I don't have faith in this SmackDown creative writing team to showcase the proper stories. I've said this, I don't know how they could, showcase the tag teams, so forth. That's why I'm worried about Javon Evans. Everybody wants to bring Javon Evans up to the main roster. Javon is not touching the main event scene for at least 5 years. And you're going to have him in the company for 5 years, where he might get frustrated and want to try something different. Sherry, hello, Sherry. How are you? Thank you for joining us here today. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone in the chat. Thank you for everyone on the different platforms. My worry. Look, if Javon was so great, and they have here's the thing that kind of frustrates me a little bit. They have matchups for Javon on SmackDown if they wanted to, but I don't trust creative again to give us Javon. Javon versus Montez Ford. The hell of a match. Javon Ciampa, if they want to go that route. There's a lot of matchups there. If you want, they have a Javon Evans, and I just mentioned his name, on their SmackDown roster, and they have done nothing with him. And again, it's Montez Ford. There are many times they tease Montez being a single star. And again, I know that it will definitely hurt Angelo Dawkins, but I think Dawkins, you could still keep him as a tag team and still have a singles success for Montez. I would like to see Montez get a singles push. You have your Javon Evans on the roster. Montez is that guy that we're looking for, Montez and Javon Evans on SmackDown. Currently right now, they're not using him. That's why it worries me with Javon heading into the main roster. NXT is fun. NXT, when done right, and it's one of the best shows on Tuesdays. But I'm going to be honest with you, this fall season for NXT has been a little bit lackluster. This fall season for NXT has been a little bit off. I don't know what it is. I don't know what, because it's not the matches. The in-ring is something about their way they're telling stories. I feel that after the showdown situation with NXT, it just fell flat. Maybe we put too much high hopes and expectation, and we got a lot thinking that we're gonna get that euphoria, that high when we saw TNA and NXT battling it out, that we kind of expect that week to week, if it makes sense. And anything else feels underwhelming. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because you wanted to do that excitement for that particular time in October, and I think that's hurting the NXT. What they're going to do with Javon, that's what we're just conversating about. People, Javon could be put on that WWE main roster right now, and he'll hit it. He's ready for that main roster. He's gotten 1,000 times better on the microphone with his promos from his very first one. Whoever's working with him on the promo class does a phenomenal job. The kid is a student of the game. The kid will go, and I this is off the record. The kid will go when he's not booked to a theater, hood and all, and watch WrestlePalooza quietly in a corner and watch it and listen and study it, what the fans see and watch. He loves the kid, along with Leon Slater. They are right now engaged and married to professional wrestling. You could see it, and the sky's the limit for both him and Leon Slater. If Javon goes to the main roster, there is not going to be no more collaborating, working with Leon Slater until Leon Slater, whenever that time happens, his TNA contract expires, and WWE is going to want to give the kid a contract to come over to the WWE, which kind of sucks for TNA, because you're becoming a breeding ground or a farming minor leagues for the WWE system, which you want TNA to thrive on its own. You want TNA people to come in and watch the product. You don't, not just the aging veterans. We want TNA to make their own homegrown talents that's going to take that company to other heights and levels as well. But that's TNA's. They have to look themselves in the mirror, and they also have to start paying talent the wages, fair wages to keep their talents in their company, not just the aging veterans, not just aging veterans who WWE already been through the cycle. Hardy's is giving that company a revitalizing life. Nick Nemeth is giving them, and now Nick Nemeth, I mean, my goodness, with that pop in Madison Square Garden, they're going to now, that's great for them going into 2026. Cardona, they've got some injection there, but then you get the situation with, Joe Hendry now leaving TNA, possibly Mike Santana's rumors. Steve Maclin's contract is up. It's a tough one to root for, but for Javon Evans, what's going to happen for him next? Let's just enjoy him. Wherever Javon Evans shows up on our TV screen or streaming platform, let's enjoy it, because he's going to put on a show. He's going to give not just 100%, he's going to give 1,000 of his best. 1,000% along with Leon Slater. Those two guys are going to give their best. And right now, I'm just enjoying it. Wherever it is, if it's in the TNA ring, if it's in a WWE ring, or it's an NXT ring, or AAA. I know that the boy is bouncy, and he's going to be bouncy wherever they put him in front. And it's a pleasure and an honor to see his wrestling career develop here. And he's only 21 years old. So barring injuries, we've got, to say, 25 years of minimum of the kid. Just totally, it's going to be an honor and pleasure to watch the kid grow. And he's getting bigger. He's no longer the slinky. He's bigger. When he stood with Gunther, he wasn't no slouch. Here's the one thing about Javon. Javon, don't fool you. This kid is like 6'2", 6'3". Kid is not a little slinky. He might have been thin when he first came into the WWE, when that Jay Malachi walked into the door. But this Javon Evans is growing in, and he's getting muscular, and he's in the WWE system, training, treating his financially now will be able to get endorsements and merch deals, and be able to do the right proper nutrition. I'm not saying he didn't eat wrong before, but now, that when you make more money, you get to eat certain things. Now you could afford the venison. You could buy bison meat, because especially when they were lifting weights and working out, it's costly. It's a lot of money. So now he's making some more extra little cash here. He could invest more and better supplements to get more and eat more healthier and more and pull up muscle, lean wherever he wants to go. And it's just obvious with his evolution of Javon Evans, also age. So it's great to see for Javon. I'm so excited for him and his future, along with as well as Leon Slater and so forth. All in all, Gold Rush week 1. When we first went off the air, me and Chris, we were a little disappointed. We were like, this wasn't for Gold Rush, a little underwhelming. If I wanted to give it, I gave this a 7 out of 10. Yesterday would have been a 6 out of 6.5, 6. I gave it one more extra 7 due to the fact I went back and listened. Thanks again to Bust Open to let me hear it, and I went back and got home and I turned on TV and listened to that Obafemi promo was next level. Listening to the crowd react to Obafemi was also, and the significance to me, that's what saved last night's Gold Rush. The significance for me for Jacy Jayne winning that second NXT World Title to me was with the reason why I say, I really enjoyed that part of her. Jacy and Ethan, great job there. I know some people would like to see the mixed tag team titles brought to the main roster and defended there as well. That's up to the main roster if they want to do that. Because we did not see Angel and Hector with the AAA tag team titles, although we do see Dominic with the Mega Championship. So I don't know. They pick and choose when they want to showcase. I know Chelsea, we see with Ethan at SmackDown with that championship. Boy, wouldn't it be nice for Montez Ford and Bianca Belair to give us a couple of matches? Montez is not doing nothing. Montez his talent that is being wasted, not doing nothing. And maybe he's helping and attending his wife and with the finger and helping. I don't know. But Montez not being on SmackDown is a criminal injustice. I would like to see Ilya when his open challenge one of these Friday nights, Montez Ford. Wouldn't mind that. I'm very high on Montez, as a tag team, as a singles. But let's face it, there's not much for them for the Street Profits tag team wise on SmackDown really to do. They it's gonna feel redundant. SmackDown with the tag teams feel redundant. They're going around in a circle. Feels like New Day and the Viking Raiders, back and forth. If you're not going to move them around, then give Montez here and there matches. Even Angelo Dawkins a match with Ilya first, and then Montez, or vice versa. Just give us something different for Friday Night SmackDown. Change it up a little bit, because people are trying to look at Friday nights and say, I must skip SmackDown. And you don't want that negativity or that stereotype when it comes to Friday Night SmackDown. You don't want that stereotype. You want people to want to tune in. They did this, they did that, and give them the fear of missing out. It's getting cold. It's very cold outside. Bad weather's going to upon us, and people are going to stay home. And I know the holiday parties are coming up where people are going to go out and have fun, but you want, especially for January, when there's really nothing, no NFL's winding down, they're leaving, no college football. Friday nights, it's brick out there. Entertain, especially going 3 hours. Use these other wrestlers that are there in the company to your advantage. We'll see where that goes. And of course, Sherry says a 7. Yeah, I totally tend to agree with you on there. We'll see what week 2 for Gold Rush brings. We'll find out. Don't forget, thank you guys. We appreciate everyone who watched along. Thank you for everyone that you could watch along with us again. Put this right up one more time. This is my other platform on the Playback TV. Playback TV is just like YouTube. You hit Playback TV, you find me, Heal the Ring, Wrestling. You'll see that we do watch-alongs, where if you don't have ability for Netflix, you can see it with us. If you don't have ESPN, you can see the you don't have NXT, you can see it with us. The CW's doing something else where they're showing in certain markets, they don't show you the NXT. You can come watch along with us in our platform there. We have a very interactive chat that always drops in their comments, their reaction, and so forth. Be part of our family. Of course, we do our weekly review here with me and Chris, my partner. Of course, don't forget our guy, Chef Dan, my partner in the channel as well, the Michelin star of the Michelin Star Takes. He gives out the recipe for success, as well as our now we have 2 female voices on our channel, which is great. We have our female voice, Canary, and we have our Latina female voice in Rain, Elise, we can't wait to announce her, and we'll probably make a big debut with her here on our weekly wrestling show or breaking down some of these. So great job. I can't wait to guys get to hear her take a really good job. She does a phenomenal job at all her. I met her at TNA, and yeah, I can't wait to unleash her here on the channel to have a conversation and so forth. So we continue to grow. Continue to grow leaps and bounds. And forget my Austin with the MMA breakdown, all the MMA combat sports, and all the different stuff that we do on our channel. So with that said, I am BX Sports Jedi Kev. We were sponsored tonight by Dude Wipes. I have to shout out our sponsor, Dude Wipes, and the Sports Jedi Network, keeping you clean both in and out of the ring. And thank you so much for our sponsor, Dude Wipes. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate everyone that watched along. You can support the channel. You can buy me a cup of coffee there. That's the QR code. All donations help with all the, I want to get a new microphone stuff. Just financially has been tight at work and so forth, but whatever help could help out with our channel as well, with microphone, video quality, all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys for the love that is given. So appreciate you guys again. We'll see you soon, and buena noche. We'll see you for TNA watch along. So have a good one. From me, from Chris, from everyone on the channel. Buena noche. Que Dios me lo bendiga a todos. Represento